Mystery Alaska.
Dowd, we had Greg Wyshynski on from ESPN a few days ago, and he brought up when we were talking about the Four Nations face-off, some of the hostility, obviously, between the U.S. and Canada was the booing of the anthem, but he also said another undercurrent was that American players, they always face discrimination when they face Canadian players because Canadian players tend to look down on the skill level of players that are born in the United States. Being an American-born player, did you encounter that a lot when you were coming out of Huntsville? You know, it's not exactly a hockey hotbed. Did you encounter a lot of that as, you know, a junior player and when you got towards your college years?
You know what I would say? I would say I was probably relatively shielded from a lot of that, being that I was growing up in Alabama, right? Mm-hmm. Like our rivals were, you know, Nashville, Atlanta, Memphis, you know, all the teams that we grew up playing in our travel league. And they weren't, you know, we didn't have a lot of run-ins with Canadian teams, and or, you know, kind of that I guess, look down upon vibe just because we didn't play in any of those tournaments. We were too far away. Right. But I definitely think that, like, there was a couple times where we went to Canada. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Silver Stick tournament. That's like kind of nationwide. And when you win certain local tournaments, like, you know, maybe the Southeast or the Northwest or whatever you want to call it, right? Like geographical location, you go to a Silver Stick tournament. Yeah. So I remember being there and thinking, like, wow, like we're just kind of visitors at this game. And then we're in Canada here. And you know, this is what they grew up doing. And then we're just kind of enjoying ourselves. So
how much of the Four Nations have you been watching? You going to watch it tonight?
Yeah, I'll watch tonight for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I think the last USA-Canada game was electric. I mean, there's not a lot of hockey games. Like, to be honest, I don't watch any hockey games.
Right.
But I turned that one on, I think, like halfway through the first, because I think all the players that are playing in it, you know, are you know, great players, and I just kind of was interested to see how it would play out. I missed the whole beginning of the game. I had to go back and kind of rewatch that on the highlights, but I thought the rest of the game was awesome. I mean, I thought both sides were great, and it ended up being a great game.
Who's your closest buddy on any of those rosters?
Oh man,
do you have any really close buddy that you played with before?
I don't know.
No, maybe not. I guess.
Yeah, nothing jumps out at me.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm sure there's guys that I have played with, but you know, none of the Capitals made that team, so it's a little hard to say.
Right.
Yeah, did you think that, like, some of your teammates, like, should have been selected for either Team USA or Canada? Like, when you're watching those fights, you know, we talked about this with Coach Carberry. Like, if Tom Wilson's on that Canada roster, maybe there's not so much fighting because nobody wants to tangle with Willie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I mean, Willie brings an element to the game that not a lot of guys bring. I mean, he's you know, probably top 5 toughest guys in the National League, maybe, you know, I mean, right around in there, and he can play the game, right? So I mean, you could probably arguably put him on any line on that Team Canada, and he's effective. But I was stunned a little bit that, you know, a team like ours that's been playing well all year, you know, and the standings show that, and that we have some elite players on our team. That not won it, you know. No, I mean, I get it, right? Like, you can't take everybody, but I definitely thought there was at least a couple guys, maybe more that.
Who off the top of your head you thought got screwed?
I think Willie could. I think Willie could have played on that team, no problem. I mean, yeah. I think a lot of guys in the NHL could have played on any of those, like, teams, right? Obviously, I'm not from Sweden, I can't play on Sweden, but I'm just saying, I think at least Canada, U.S., there's a lot of guys that could have played on that team. I just, you know, it's probably a really hard roster to choose, right? Because you're trying to probably find the best players, but at the same point, you're thinking, well, we got to find the best fits. And, you know, you're basically asking top line guys from every team to come in and play different roles that they're not used to playing, particularly, right? So I think you got to build a team and not necessarily sometimes take the absolute best players at times. I think there's kind of stigma about that. But yeah, I mean, I think Willie definitely could have played. I think Stromer could have played. I think Johnny Carlson for sure could have played on that D-core, no question. I mean, these are also guys that I have the benefit of watching every single day, and I watch every single game, and I know how good they are. And I think that makes a big difference. Like there's been a lot of times in my career where we've traded for a player, or we've signed a player, or I join a new team and I meet a guy, and in my head I'm like, oh, like I played against this guy, like he's a good hockey player, but doesn't blow the doors off, or and then I play with him every day, and I'm like, wow, this guy's like a really, really good hockey player. And it happens to me every single year that I play with a new player. So